Good afternoon. This is Mala from Hearts&Minds Development Center. Welcome to Being Whole, Being Me. Today is an extremely special episode for me because today's guest, Silvia Sim, is very, very special. I never thought I would say this. She's my therapist, and she's given me such an amazing healing experience. And I'm just so excited to introduce her to the world, my world of friends, and family and friends who have always supported me, because I think she's a miracle worker, and I hope that more people who need miracles will understand the miracle she is and the light she brings into our lives, especially mine. And hopefully you can spread the great news about who Sylvia is and the kind of work she does, right? And if you've seen the topic, we're going to talk about body talk. Yes, our body talks. But what I learned is that I wasn't listening to my body, and I needed someone to knock some sense into my head by listening to my body and interpreting it and telling me. So without further ado, I'm going to just bring you I don't know whether I can call her a friend, but really this miracle worker who's, I've done 2 sessions with her, and it's been an amazing healing journey for me. So put your hands together quietly and help me bring Sylvia over. Sylvia, hi.
Well, thank you for that enlightening introduction. Thank
No,
you.
thank you. So a little bit of background to our audiences, if you've been listening in. I know you guys see me a lot, and this is our 30th session. And one of those things I really like about myself is my cheerfulness and my joyfulness, and my friends all add on to my joyfulness. But within the joyfulness, the last 6 months have been very, very dark months for me, right? And I have been doing a lot of development work, a lot more than I usually do, and a lot of stuff has been cropping up for me. And there were times that I thought I was hitting rock bottom, uh, and I thought I had hit rock bottom. And I was so blessed because I had two therapists who were introduced to me. One is Aditi Joshi, and she did a bit of gestalt with me. And then I was so lucky, Erica introduced me to Sylvia, because she said, you should try something that's not so mainstream and something that's alternative. So I didn't even check out anything, I heard Body Talk, I heard Erica, and I know what Erica said, because I had explained to her what I was experiencing, my really, really dark moments. And I was really scared because for once in my life, I didn't know how to help myself. And that was scary for me. And here I am, trying to, being helpful to the whole world. And I didn't know how to help myself. So that's when I met Sylvia. And guess what happened? The first session she comes on, and magic happens for me. All right. So Sylvia, thank you. I think I must say, I dare say that I'm on I feel I'm in the space of recovery, and I'm very grateful to you. But let's get on to your work, because I think your work is so important, just so important. Now, anyone who wants to know more at a personal level, contact me. I will tell you. But now let's hear from Sylvia. So, Sylvia, tell us a little bit about. I know you are everything, right? I wanted to call you a body talk practitioner, but then I realized it's not just body talk. She's a yoga, tai chi, and Wuji Gong teacher, practitioner, student of Mayan teachings. That's a lot, and I think that's what makes you stand out differently during my own healing experience. But let's maybe you can quickly just introduce us to how did you get introduced to body talk.
Okay, how I got introduced to body talk, right? Yeah, I have been teaching yoga for more than 20 years, right? And that experience for me started because my ex-husband, he had brain cancer. So we went into yoga together because we knew that yoga is good for healing, connecting the body-mind complex there. And then from there, somehow it was just like that desire, that calling really to get more in touch personal life experience because my ex-husband has got cancer, and then my own parents also had cancer as well. And then, during the course of teaching yogas with clients and all that, I somehow discovered that I have healing hands. So that brought on that curiosity as to what it meant. I accept that, I have the touch, if you will. So I just wanted to know more. So that led me down to learning about Qigong, Tai Chi, what it all meant, how Qi move, how it connects us to our inner self, our higher self. And then it was, I think, 5 years ago that I was talking to a friend, and then I saw this poster about Bodytalk, right? And immediately it sticks to me. Immediately it calls to me. So my first immediate instinct was I need to understand what this is about. So I make an appointment to see the practitioner, and at the end of the session, the practitioner was saying, I was asking a question, and then he was saying that we are bringing in an instructor to teach Bodytalk. Yeah, so that was it. And as they say, the rest is history, and that's how I got into Bodytalk. So then it was that. Yeah.
What attracted you to the idea of Bodytalk? So before I do that, I must tell you, I'm just going to welcome a couple of people, and I'm going to tell you what my son said, and then tell us what attracted you to Bodytalk. So good morning, Hemel. Thank you for joining us. Louis, thank you for always supporting us. That's another friend of mine. And Brian Cheong, thank you very much for joining us. He's a teacher psychologist. Now, Brian, thanks for joining. I'm wearing the sari you gave me for Deepavali. I hope I look good for you. So thank you, Brian. I have to say that. My son, I told him I had met you, and I was very happy when I went back after my first session. I told him, I was telling my kids what happened for me, and because I was really, really very happy. And so my son was 11, right? So he said, I said, do you know what is Bodytalk? He said, yeah. I was shocked. I said, what? You know? He said, yeah. I said, okay, Aya, tell me what do you know about Bodytalk? He said, it's just listening to what your body is saying because it's telling you what's happening.
Excellent, fantastic.
And this is like at a dinner table, and I'm like, have you read about it before? He said, no. I said, then how do you know? Because you know.
He's right. There are just something sometimes that inner knowing, right? You just know. Yeah, you can't put a finger on it, but you just know. So, if you want to think about it, you persist on knowing what it is. What is it? What is it? You won't be able to find it. Yeah, it's just, it is already in you. But the term itself, Bodytalk, is already very, for me, it's already very revealing because the body, it talks to you. It does talk to you, and it's telling you a lot of things that is going on. But a lot of the time, we are just not in tune, not aware with what the body is saying to us. Yeah. So because we were not looking to listen.
So let's go back a little bit and so help us understand our audiences who are here now and who might join us later and watch you are lay people like me who may or may not have heard of Bodytalk, and we all know that Bodytalks come under alternative therapy, and we don't have that much of exposure in this part of the world. And right now, we know the idea of well-being has, there's a greater need for well-being. We have the most advanced, medical interventions, but we are still struggling. So obviously, we need other than the mainstream to help us. And this is really for the people who are searching to understand, the physical, perhaps the physical pain that we are experiencing, but you are not able to see a manifestation in terms of what is a physical wound. But, it doesn't mean we are not wounded.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't mean we're not wounded, because the pain is coming from somewhere. And perhaps we don't understand the language of our body anymore because we're not listening enough. That's what I got from you, right? Because what happened is, when I went to Sylvia's session, so I've been doing a lot of work, I've been journaling, I've been writing, and then Sylvia just touches me for a bit, and then she tells me all the things I've been journaling for years, right? And how can I not say that she's got some magic, right? So tell us, what made you explore body talk in helping people heal?
Right. When I had my first session, it picks up a lot of things about what was happening within my body, my past experience, and all that. And something which hasn't made sense to me before suddenly brought on a lot of clarity, right? And for me, it was like I was able to connect a lot of the dots. Everything starts to make sense, right? And
Mm.
I start to feel more grounded, more all together in a way, if you will. And everything just makes sense. Again, that inner knowing, this is what it is, and I need to pursue this. If it can help me, I'm sure it can help a lot of other people as well. And there's always been inside me to be of service, to help people, one person at a time, to get in touch with themselves. I mean, we are already doing this through yoga. Yoga is all about the union of the body and the mind, right? So this is just another level, taking it into another modality to take it into another level of body-mind connection, of getting back to wholesomeness, if you will.
So will I be correct in saying that my understanding is this, right? Your interventions in terms of the healing work that you do is really to connect the dots for some things that we might know about ourselves, and basically helping us to look at ourselves as a whole person, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
bringing the wholeness together, bringing the healing together, because in traditional healing and traditional medicine, I think there is a tendency to look at the body as if it's a thing, right? I do parts of my body. I've got gastric, so I go to this doctor, I take this medication. But what we're
mm,
not doing is that we're looking at the effects, so that our illnesses are effects,
yes,
but we don't go to the source,
yes.
which is the mind.
Yes, that is where a lot of the issues that. But I want to make something very clear, right? I do know that I have the healing hands and all that, but a lot of the time the healer is you yourself. It's the one who comes to seek the session, because that ability to heal is already within all of us, right?
Mm.
So body talk just brings up the disconnect within the internal body, if you will, between the mind and the heart, or the disconnect between other parts of the body, the breakdown in communication within the other parts of the body. It's just to highlight it, bring it into your consciousness so you are aware of how what has happened to you physically, to the mental body, to the emotional body, to the physical body. And then it is your innate ability to heal that connects it all for you, right? I'm just a facilitator. The healer is actually you.
Oh, that's nice to know. But the thing is this, right, Sylvia? What I realize is that, I mean, you're absolutely right. And on one hand, because my experience with you, nothing you really said was like, "Oh, I didn't know this," right?
Yes.
But the aha for me, as I told you, was like, I knew this for years, but I couldn't put them together because I looked at these things as separate issues, right? And what you did for me in like just every session that I went with you is that you we talk about one major seed, if I may use that was giving me all of these challenges or pains, and we went back to the root
Yes.
where it started, and it usually starts at childhood, right?
Yes.
Right,
Absolutely.
usually. And what you help me with is that you help me to put the puzzle together. I may have had all the pieces,
Yes.
but I didn't know how the pieces were fitting in, or I was looking at a different picture of the puzzle. And
Yes.
you help me recognize with the pieces you have, this is how your puzzle is supposed to look, so now you know why you never put it together, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what you did for me. So tell us a little bit more, just a little bit more, not technical, body talk. So for those who are watching, Sylvia, you can contact her on Facebook, or you can connect with me. I'll give you her mobile number. Sylvia does body talk therapy, but I can tell you she's not just a body talk therapy. In her presence, she brings in a lot of other ancient wisdom that she puts together. I don't know how, but I do know that she's fully present with me when I'm with her. And it's amazing because a lot of sessions, therapists will say, I need 10 sessions with you or 20 sessions with you. But all Sylvia is interested is what happens in this session with you. And that's really the beauty of Sylvia as the facilitator of our own healing. So when you do body talk, right, Sylvia, I know you're listening to our body, right, in whatever skills that you have. Now what is amazing for me is that you're able to tell me, so one of those things that you had told me was that there was an event in your life that happened at this point of time which I hadn't remembered,
Mm,
right? And that's so scary for me because it was not in my conscious, but what was in my unconscious was the one that was causing me the pains, both emotional and physical pain,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
tell us, like, with the intelligence in the body talk. So I'm not interested in like how you do it. I know you've spent years learning it and practicing it, right? Why
Mm,
do we miss out? How do we miss out such an important event? I mean, that's a question I'm asking myself. How come I didn't know this was bothering me?
yes. Um, when we experience trauma, or when we go through one of those life experiences that is in our mind not pleasant,
Okay.
right? So the mind find a way to cope through that event. Okay, so that event may be painful. There maybe a lot of emotional distress around it. So you kind of talk yourself through it or out of it. You analyze it. You come up with solution, and then you tell yourself to move on. Get over it already. No sense crying over spilled milk and all that, right? And then you move on. But internally, each and every part of the body have got their own consciousness. At that moment in time, when you're going through that specific event, the emotions that you were feeling then could have been already been trapped. It's taken a hold. Let's say it's in the heart center. It could be at the energetic heart or at the physical heart. It's taken a place there. The emotions is already trapped in there. All
Okay.
right. And then it could also, let's say, the anger also could have taken a hold in the liver. But we don't
Mm.
know all this, right? Because it's inside of us. We don't know what's happening. So the liver has got its own consciousness. The heart has got its own consciousness. But physically, we already moved on from the event,
Mm.
right? And then let's say 10 years down the road, another event happened that triggers a lot of anger and a lot of emotional reactiveness in you as well. Things would not have been, should not have been so dramatic, if you will. But because of the event that happened in the past, the the mind, if you, it remembers, oh, I remember this event maybe 17 years ago, it caused me to feel this way. I was so angry. There was a lot of fear. I feel so lost and all that. I'm now currently going through another situation that makes me feel the same way. So everything gets amplified, right?
Mm.
And then again, you deal with it in a logical way as how, okay, I dealt with it before, right? I'm going to get through this again. So you use the same coping mechanism to get through this whole situation and then you move on again. But in the meantime, the anger is stewing inside. It's stewing inside. So the emotional body is like, I'm feeling so angry here. Why are you not listening to me? So that anger also affects the way you think, the way you perceive things, the way you look at things, right? So that if the anger has been stewing for a long, long time, then it will, in over time, manifest as physical issue.
Mm.
Yeah, so it manifests because we're all made up of the four bodies, right? The spiritual body, the physical body, the mental body, and the emotional body. They all are connected. So when one is not at peace, the others will not be at peace either. They are a unified, they have to be united, they have to be unified complex. They all think they should all be in line, in synchronicity with one another. So those will manifest as physical issue, physical pain. And that is the body's wisdom already waking up to the fact that, hey, look, something is going on that you have not dealt with over most of the time is that you have not let go of. And actually you are holding on to that as a means to keep you moving. So let's say it is anger. You're using the anger to drive you forward. But that was not very healthy. You need a little bit of anger to keep you moving to this and that. But excessive anger over the years can manifest in different ways. It can change your personality, right? It can, like I said, affect your perception. So, yeah, so body talk, get the root cause of this. It helps you to go back to an event that happened before and how you were feeling, and then resolve that. Change your perspective, right? And also to look at it differently, understand what you were going through, right? Release it from maybe from the heart, from the liver, let it go. Because it's not holding on to that anger is no longer serving you. And as a matter of fact, in the contrary, it's already bringing you physical issues, physical pain. So why are you holding on to that anger when it's not serving you at all? Right? Yeah.
So, Sylvia, I'm just going to try and recap that so that I've understood it properly, right? So, what you're saying is that because you use the word mind and consciousness,
Mm.
are they the same or different?
Well, if you look at Mr. Google, it explains the mind as the intellect that thinks, that remembers, yeah, that recollects and that make experiences and all that. For me, they are not the same, right? When you are very conscious of something, you are in the moment, you are very aware, you are very connected, right? The mind, its job is to keep you safe. The
Mm,
mind, it will help you to build up defense system. The mind is the one that comes up with belief system. And a
mm,
lot of the time, this is what is keeping us very constricted, very constricted. When we are aware, when we have that consciousness of what's happening around you, we become more whole, we live more fully in the present, right?
mm.
Yeah, so that's the difference there for me. We can use the mind to make a lot of analysis or logic to convince ourselves of certain things.
Mm.
But
Sylvia,
yeah,
so help me just understand this because I think we hear a lot of stuff that we grow up with in terms of literally idol worshipping whatever we believe as our mind, right? And typically, when we think about the mind, we think about our logical brain. I'm
yes,
saying typically, I'm not saying that's what it is, right? So we know it is the intellect force. And what you're saying is really very interesting for me because what you're saying is that It is through our mind, and wherever the mind is, so we are forming our belief systems,
Mm,
right? And what
yes,
you're also saying, which which I think is brilliant, is that in every event that we are experiencing, it is true that we use the mind to survive through that
yes,
situation, because
yes,
it's clever, right? It's telling you how do you solve the problem, how do you overcome the challenge, right? But
yes,
what happens is that while you're using your intellect, your emotions that you were experiencing at that point of time didn't come together with the mind. So it's literally you are divided within. And when you're divided within, your emotions are stuck in the system, right? And the emotional memory is stuck in the system, right? Because we're talking about when we heal, we need to heal as a whole person, your
yes,
mind, your spirit, yeah, your body, and your emotions, right? And so
yes,
what's happening here is that the emotions that does not has not accepted, so it doesn't feel, so if I'm angry about something, my mind is saying it's not worth getting angry because these are things people have told us and all that, right? You talk, you do a self talk. Now
yeah,
mentally you have moved on, logically you seem to have moved on, but emotionally the
mm,
anger has not been met, right? Because it's not got
yes,
its justice, and so it
yes,
gets stuck in
yes,
whichever part of your body. And
yes,
this is the part where we talk up. So, and this is the one that comes to haunt you years later, because this is like a base programming of different unresolved issue that you're holding in your body that you're not aware.
yes,
When the
yes,
body begins to hurt, or you get triggers, and triggers here means something similar happens and you overreact to a situation, and the overreaction doesn't make sense. So those
yes,
are things I
absolutely,
don't, yeah. And that's
yes,
when sometimes we realize that your normal intervention is not going to work because it's
mm,
somewhere deeper that we may not be able to understand logically, or it's not making sense, kind of a thing, right? I understand that. Now, when you talk about consciousness, for example, right? I Is it fair for me to assume that every cell in our body has its own consciousness?
absolutely, yes. Every cell, every tissue, every organ, every endocrine glands, every physical part of our body have their own consciousness. Let's take, for example, our shoulder. They've got their own consciousness, right?
Mm.
Shoulder, sometimes when we have an injury to the shoulder and all that, right? And it restricts your movements. So a lot of time it can also mean, right? Okay, you may have um, a responsibility that is wearing you down. It could be family responsibility, business, or corporate, or whatnot. But it is sitting like a burden on your shoulder. So the injury, it is just a trigger to wake you up to the fact that you're feeling very overwhelmed. You're feeling overly stressed by your burden of
Right.
responsibility. So that's that
Right.
consciousness they're talking to you, right? Or it could be that um, it's also about movements that when you have injury that you can't move. So which part in your life right now do you feel restricted? Are you
Wow.
feeling that you're feeling restricted by your parents, you have no movement, or are you feeling restricted by your spouse because you want to do some things and you can't because you need to please everybody? Restriction. So, in which part of your life is that restriction being manifested? That it has manifested in your physical body to show you that this is an issue that you need to address. And that's
Mm,
the consciousness of the shoulder,
mm.
right?
So
So that's the wisdom of the body.
nice, nice. So I use it because I've so th- I do work around emotional intelligence, right? So, and all my work is what has led me to now the consciousness of the body, because I read this book called Your Body Keeps the Score, and it's such a scary book to read, right? And because what I'm getting at is, while I started with emotions as to why we're experiencing certain emotion, because I'm emotional, And so emotion usually makes you want to resolve those issues because you don't like the unpleasant feeling that you're experiencing, right? But when I move backwards, I'm very much thinking about it from a mind perspective. And I realized that, so I was working in that space for many, many years. And I'm not saying that doesn't work, right? If you've
Mm,
thought about an issue or perceive an issue wrongly, then that's the perception you need to change, right? But what I also recognize, I'm beginning to recognize is this, right? Because whatever I feel emotionally, and there's now enough science to say how it gets trapped in your autonomic nervous system, because
mm,
you go into not feeling safe,
yes,
right? And that's how your body learns how to protect itself,
yes,
right? And
yes,
yeah, so and it worked yesterday because yesterday you had less resources and you had to protect yourself. But
yes,
if you don't deal with these issues, you begin to use your old programming today when
yes,
you're actually more resourceful,
yes,
right?
absolutely, yes,
And what you're doing is that you are helping individuals to reconcile what was in the past,
yes.
let it go. That means let, because in emotions what we're saying is that you need to let it run its course and let it out of your system.
Absolutely, yes. And you said a very key word there, reconcile, right? Because a lot of the time when we are feeling what we call a lot of all those more heavy emotions, or people like to label them as negative emotions. You're an angry person, you're feeling a lot of anger. Why are you so angry, right? Or you're
Mm,
feeling depressed, or that's a taboo word, you shouldn't be feeling depressed. Depression is like as a mental issue, that person and all that. But a lot of these emotions, right, whether it's anger, depression, anxiety, worries, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, overwhelmed, intolerant, all of this, it is an aspect of who we are. We do feel all of this. So when we deny that we feel a certain way, so what does the mind do? The mind shuts it down. So, in effect, what is it doing? We are denying a part of us, right? We are not denying that aspect of us. We're not allowed to feel this way. But why? Because that is how we feel at that moment. That is how we feel when we're going through that situation. So, if you don't feel those emotions, our life experience makes us who we are. Be it positive experience or negative experience, they define us, they make us who we are, right? So to become whole is to accept the good and the not so good. So why a lot of the time we were told the not so good, forget about it, is over and done with. But the not so good is what shapes us into who we are in the present moment,
mm.
right? So we talk about the heart and the soul, the yin and the yang, the light and the darkness and all that. They are all aspects of us. We need to embody that. We need to embody that as part of who we are, right? The moment we deny it, we are denying who we are. And that's why the body starts to split even more when you deny an aspect of yourself.
So it seems to me that see one of so we started this series called Being Whole, Being Me, right?
Yes.
And it seems like, oh my gosh, you are just bringing all of it together for us. So being whole as a person, I think first and foremost, the key question for us to ask is, who am I really, right? The
Mm,
sense of the authenticity that we are all searching for,
yes.
right? And when we deny a part of ourself, whether it is the mental part or the emotional part, or the physical part or the spiritual part, with which is I believe the consciousness that we are probably ignoring, right? Because we're so much in the head,
Yes.
right? We're so much in the head. We say mind over matter, you can get through with positive thinking, and now we're talking about positive toxicity. So we're so much in the mind that I think we idol worship the intellect so much that we're losing out on the wisdom of the whole self. And this is
Yes.
where we are experiencing breakdowns despite our advanced intellect. There are some,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
there are a lot
Yes.
of things that cannot be resolved with our advanced intellect that is showing up, that we are now going back to traditional thinking, ancient wisdom, whatever we want to call it, as energy healing and alternative therapy. Because what you're doing is that you're bringing now all of it together and saying, this is what we've missed, because we need to bring the whole self together, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
how do I now know? How do I listen to my consciousness?
How do you listen to your consciousness? Right. Being very, very present. Being very present. Right? If the mind is very busy, you have a lot of thoughts.
Mm,
The mind is not, you are not in the present. Right?
mm,
Because there's a lot of distracting thoughts. The mind is very, very busy.
mm, mm,
Right? So when you are fully in the moment, in the present, the mind is very quiet. You are very connected.
mm,
You're very connected. You are very whole, conscious, unconscious, subconscious. They are all aligned. And that's when you are very in the moment, that's a lot of the time when you can have your insights.
mm,
When
mm,
your solution just comes just like that, you have epiphany.
mm,
Oh yes, now I know what I need to do. And now, we are able to tap into our innate wisdom. We are able to tap into our instinct, our intuition. So
mm,
that creativeness just flow, right? We connect. But when
mm,
the mind is very busy, we're not able to listen to our intuition,
mm,
right? Because
mm,
we're so busy thinking, yeah, the mind is telling me I should do this and this. So it doesn't work that way. So if you're fully in the moment, fully in the present, there's a lot of practices there too, where you can do that to allow you to be in the moment. So that's when you're fully aware, that's when you're whole, and that's when you are fully conscious of what's going on. Every single sound makes a lot of sense. Every single sound has its place. Hearing, all the senses becomes very heightened.
mm,
Right? So that connection
mm,
is, you're very in tune with what's going on.
mm.
Yeah.
So it's very much tuning in into the presence of the now and being
Mm,
attuned to yourself. And so what I'm hearing is that when you're present, and we're not talking about being physically present, and this is where I suppose you're talking about the union of the self, right? Where
mm,
your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spiritual self, they are all in one place. That's the now you're talking about, right?
yes. Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times it's so easy as very clever intellects for us to say, I can repeat what you said, so I'm present with what you're saying, right?
Right.
But I might be listening, or I might be hearing what you say. I might be able to paraphrase it and listen to you, but I may not be attuned to what you're feeling in terms of your experience. And we get caught in labels, and which are actually judgments, right? Because I mean, for me, and please correct me, Sylvia, because I think so. For me, as long as we label stuff as positive, you can't run away from the labels of negative. If you want
Yes.
to collapse judgment, you need to say they are both experiences in life that makes your life meaningful,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because
So,
for me, I find it's like being stuck with I want success, and if you get stuck with the label of success, you will get stuck with the label of failure.
it's very interesting, right? So here we're talking about also in a way about the judgment there, right?
Right.
How do you determine success? In your perception, what is success? Because when we think in terms of success, that means you already have a certain expectation, right? So
Mm,
how do you, let's say, from A, your meaning of success is you want to get from A immediately to Z.
Mm.
Okay. Now, but let's say in reality, you're only able to get from A to B.
Mm.
So in your perception, in your mind, is that a failure or is that a success?
Mm.
From what perspective are you looking at success?
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
for the person who has got a very high expectation and judgment of himself, because expectation always comes with from judgment, right? So when you have that expectation to go to already by a certain date be at Z already rather than being still at A, but
Mm.
B, you are already have stepped forward from A to B. It is also success. But in your mind's eyes, is that a success or do you see it as a failure because you are not already at Z, you are still at B only?
Mm. Mm.
You see how the mind interprets things?
Right. So when you're talking about mind here, you mean the mind here, right? The
Yes.
intellect that is saying, because what the intellect has done, or what we've programmed ourselves with our intellect is you have all this noise around you about pictures of success, pictures of perfection, pictures of what you should be.
Yes.
But we need to check within, we need to
Yes.
reconnect within to see who we are, what is it that we really, really want. And this is what you talk about innate wisdom, right? Because
Yes.
innately, I have come into this world to do stuff. That's why I need my physical body,
Yes.
right? And when I give in to the voices and the noises outside, I betray my own self a lot of times,
Absolutely. Yes.
right?
You
I betray,
deny.
yeah,
Yes.
and I overcome it with positive thinking because I'm not present. I'm with the world out there, and the world is telling me what does it mean to be success. I am not decoding my own success, my my own meaning and purpose. What makes me whole? What makes me me? Right? Because we're all on the road of wanting to be authentic. I want to be authentic, but I'm not willing to pay the price of authenticity because the value in my authenticity may not match what the value the world pays for it,
Yes. Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
that's
Yes.
where the disconnect is actually happening for us, and we don't realize it.
Yeah. Not just the disconnect, but you can see how it is also bringing a lot of emotional stress to you.
Mm, mm, mm,
Because it's
mm,
an expectation of the external that, oh, I have to be like this, like this, like this. So therefore, you put on this mask there. I need to be like this, because that's how the world perceive me to be, or that's how I want to be seen by the world, or that's how they determine success. So I'm going to use that as a yardstick for myself. But in the process of that, what is that doing to you?
mm, mm, mm.
Uh,
And
so
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So when you are whole, when you are connected, when you are conscious, when you're in the moment, there is that sense not just of connection, but there is that sense of peace, that sense
Mm,
of bliss. And
mm.
if all those expectations of where you ought to be or where you should be, it is causing a lot of internal stress as well.
Right, right.
So we always brought it onto ourselves. We do.
I know it's so
Unconsciously.
such a painful truth. It's such
Yes.
a painful truth, isn't it? Because
Yes.
what I realized with you, I mean, I won't even say I realized. I think the big slap on my face when I caught up with you, Sylvia, was this, right? I teach this.
Mm.
I teach, I coach, I train people, and like, oh my gosh, I'm so good. But yet, I got caught in denial of listening to what really was needed for my own self, and that's really the difficult part. I think to face what's really happening within us. I want to just check in with you because you triggered something for me. You said peace. So for me, and I'm checking in with you because the world is now chasing after happiness and not peace. right?
Yeah.
um yeah, and this is something I'm struggling with, right? Because when we talk about meeting expectations, for example, right, because we're talking about expectations, and that's where sometimes, or a lot of times, our problem starts, because
Mm,
the expectations that we're setting for ourselves from the desire that has been determined by the world, right? And because we're not checking in with ourselves. So for me is when I see something and it's desirable, my process is to pause and say, this is exciting, this is desirable, but let me check in whether this is what I really really want,
yes.
right? And if
Yes.
it connects, and it always connects, it always tells me something. My external desire is always telling me something I've not listened to, an unfulfilled need, and then I will work on it and say, okay, is it really what I really want? Then I will differentiate between the voice and the noise. That's my process. For me, when I am together, I am at peace with myself,
Yes. Yes.
and
You
I
are
have.
at, yeah, you are at peace when, yeah, when you see that, when you can understand that you have explored, or you have, let me use the word, blossom to your full potential.
Right. Now, I don't get that all the time when I make choices that makes me happy.
Mm, yeah.
That's what. So I've very consciously. So my own check-in is, between happiness and peace. I'll go for peace, because
Yeah.
without peace, I don't sleep well.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
That.
And for me,
Yeah.
happiness are temporary states that is really nice. It's energetic, but it's not a long-term thing that I seek, right? I mean, there are moments just like anger and guilt and pleasantness and joy. Everything has its place, and happiness is just one of it.
Yes.
Whereas for me, underlying happiness. So if with anger, can I actually, when I'm angry, I ask myself, in the way I express my anger, does it give me peace? That means, am I still coming together in my anger? Is
Mm,
often the question I'm asking, because when I express my anger in the wrong way, that means
mm,
I don't show up as me, I lose
mm,
my peace, because I've lost my union with the self.
yeah.
So that's my experience. But I would love to explore your take, because we are very very loud out there about happiness, whether it's Insta happiness or Facebook happiness. We get so carried away with putting up a photo and thinking that's what we're seeking.
Mm, yeah.
All right, so how would you differentiate, or how can you help us?
Right. I think sometimes, pursuing so-called happiness, like you say, you can be happy posting pictures of yourself on social media and all that. But those are all just physical pursuits, right? You
Okay.
are saying, yeah, it brings you instant gratification. Oh my God, I look so good. I look so beautiful. I'm going to post it and share it with the world and all that. But what you show to the world, what you post out there, you have got so many likes and all that, right? And you're so happy about that. But is that happiness, is that lasting, or is that short lived? What really is underlying that emotion of happiness truly,
Mm,
right? At the mental level, the mind is like, oh my goodness, so many likes, I'm so happy about this,
mm,
right? But the thing also you need to ask yourself is that, why do I need to post all these things out there in order to find my happiness? So in a way, is my happiness tied into approval from other people out there,
right.
right?
Right.
Now, what is it truly that makes me personally happy inside here? Because if the happiness comes from deep within, that's way that's way you can come into a sense of connectedness, right? Of understanding, of a deeper union, of coming home to who you are.
Wow.
So it's a sense of you've been very content with yourself. With that contentment is also a sense of peace. When you are content, you are not wanting, right?
Mm.
Because you are in bliss.
Nice. I just love when you said coming home.
Yes. A lot of
Coming
time it's
home.
not coming home to who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Accepting yourself, being honest with yourself, not denying any aspect of yourself. When you
Right.
don't deny any part of you, you come home to yourself and you're very much at peace, you're very much content.
Thank you.
Right?
And the home that we belong to, I mean, so base what I'm hearing is don't be your guest in your own home.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And your own home doesn't have to be the perfect picture the world has painted for you.
Yes.
Your
Exactly.
home is where you reside, where you feel comfortable, where you feel like yourself. And when you feel like yourself, you are at your best.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So the physical vessel, I think all of us have heard this at some point in our life, is that our body is our temple,
Mm.
right? When we go to a physical temple to pray, we are in awe,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Our mind is quiet. We are not saying any kind of negative thoughts, right?
Mm.
We are in awe. So why
Mm.
are we not in awe of our own temple? This physical vessel that is housing the mind, that is housing who we are, that is housing our connectedness, that is housing our soul, our spirit, right? So
Nice.
why are we not doing that?
Mm.
Why are we only in awe worshiping physical temple that is out there? Why are we not, right, worshiping what's already inside us?
Mm.
Or in all of us inside us, because we as human, we are wonderful beings.
Oh, thank you. That's such a beautiful analogy. Thank you so much. Whoa! So I think we can go everywhere, but I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because we've got like about 10 minutes. Okay. Luis Moraes had asked, how do we know the difference between we talking to ourselves and our body talking to us? Or literally, how do we differentiate the talk that's come from this mind and listening to consciousness? I'm just
Right.
rephrasing the question here.
Yeah. Again, I come back to awareness.
Okay.
Awareness. Yeah. If you find yourself justifying, if you find yourself making excuses, that is you talking to yourself, right?
Mm, mm,
Right. So a lot of time when we understand that the body is talking to us, it's when for myself, I like to self-reflect, go through an experience. Like if I have outwardly expressed my displeasure or anger with my kids, right? I self-reflect, ask myself, why am I angry with my son? What is the real anger? Why am I projecting onto him? That's
mm,
self-reflection, right? And then you contemplate, like, yeah, okay, what actually is happening and why am I protecting and what am I learning from all this, from the
mm,
event that causes
mm,
this outburst in me.
mm,
So when you go through all the self-reflection and self-contemplation, you can actually get a lot of deeper answer rather than just surface answer, as in, yeah, it's because she's like this, he's like this. But a lot of time, we always like to point the finger,
mm,
right? It's very human to blame. To
mm,
blame. It's always the other person's fault. It's not our fault. But
mm.
we oftentimes project.
Yeah, can you enlighten, because I know you asked me this question in my session and I wanted to slap myself. Yeah, I wanted to. It's like, oh gosh, do I really have to answer this question? Enlighten us a little bit about projection, because you asked some really
Tough question.
like they were questions like I wanted to run away, right? Because I think it's probably a question I know, but when you ask me, it's like, like, do I really have to answer it? And I think projection was one of those, right? Because as I'm telling you, this is what I feel about this person, and I think this person is the cause of my problem. And like, I know, Sylvia, whenever I'm coming, okay, the answer is it's all within me. So can you help us to understand? So when we think the external world is the problem,
Mm,
and usually in relationships, right? I'm not happy because this person is like that, that person is like that. And what you are saying is, I mean, not what you're saying, but basically we're saying that everything that I project about the world or to the world, about the world, right, is actually a reflection of my inner world.
yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So if I think, the problem is my kids, they're not listening to me, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Help me to, or help us to understand, how do I now see that as a reflection of me, or why am I projecting that?
Yeah. So here it is like when we can see the other person as a mirror reflecting back onto a certain aspect of ourselves. Certain aspect of ourselves that we don't like, or certain aspect of ourselves that we have denied or put under lock and key, or certain aspect that we don't want to deal with, right?
Mm, mm,
So the person in front of us, they just serve as triggers,
mm,
trigger you into reacting a certain way because those are aspects of you that you deny, that you will not accept that is in you.
mm,
All right. So if you say, "Oh, my son is so naughty," I'm very frustrated with him. So what aspect of that is triggering that in you? He is naughty. Naughty in what way?
mm,
Is it an aspect of you that feel constricted because you have no freedom to
mm,
do the things that you want to do? Your son is naughty because he doesn't do as you say. Or is that perhaps a reflection of you feeling like you have no freedom to do what you want to do?
mm,
All
mm.
right. So those are all reflections. Those are all mirrors. If we can only look within and ask ourselves those probing questions. But a lot of the time it is hard because we, like you say, we have a tendency to run away and not want to deal with it. We want to think we like to think of ourselves as being perfect. But
Yeah.
what is perfection? Right?
Yeah.
What is perfection?
Mm,
Perfection is when you can be honest with yourself and when you can accept each and every part of you. You
mm.
are not in denial of any part of you. And that's
Nice.
perfection. Yeah.
Nice. And we're usually in denial of what we label as negatives and imperfections or weaknesses. We're not in denial of our strengths and positives and what we think we do very well, either strength or perfection, right? So my question is, when we talk about projection, so it's very, so when I'm angry, and I can relate to this, and by the way, my son has also tuned in. His name is Lucius. Lucius, hi. This is Auntie Sylvia, my therapist. Hi, because he's our
Hallelujah.
yeah. And so when I'm angry, I can think about it as, okay, I want to deal with the discomfort of anger because I want to. We often disassociate ourselves with negative emotions. Understood, but
Yes.
when I feel happy about, when my son does something really, really nice, and I feel, how we parents or mothers say, I'm so proud of you, as if I had something to do with who you are, right? Would that
Yes.
also be considered a projection?
Yes, yes, because ask yourself, I'm so proud of my son, I'm so proud of his achievement. So you also have come to the point where you have also achieved something in your life. So you need also to be proud of yourself for having done that. But the thing a lot of the time is that, we do a lot of things because it is expected of us from the
Right.
parents, right? We do certain things to please them, right? But
Mm,
we ever done things for ourselves that we have wanted to do that we're so happy, so proud that we go ahead and do it. And when we go ahead and do it, it really we are so proud of what we have shown ourselves that we are capable of, what we are capable of doing and achieving. Have we ever given ourselves that pat on the back?
right.
Right? We always look for it from others to tell us, oh my goodness, you are so great, you are so wonderful. But have we ever tell ourselves, I am fantastic, right?
Mm,
I am so wonderful because
sure.
of
But where
this.
does humility sit in all of this? Because what I'm hearing from you, and I totally agree with you, is that a lot of our own pains, which we think the world is projecting to us, leads, like for me, it has led me to think, despite whatever I have done, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel I want the world to validate my work. How I make a difference. Needs to validate in terms of appreciation. Even physically. It's so nice to be complimented, right? So
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
while it's nice, but to do that, you begin to think like, how do I look at myself? Do I see myself as beautiful, right? As a person, do I validate myself? Do I love myself? Because if I do all of this, then I will wake up to the world presenting the person I am, and whoever I am, I'm enough.
Yes.
Because when
Yes.
I'm not enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not clever enough, I'm not perfect enough, I'm not enough, that's
Yes.
when I need the energy from the world to feed me, because I don't have the power within me to become that person, right? So I get it at a mind level. I get it, right?
Mhm.
But on the other hand, we are also shouting out to, but you know what? I need to be humble so that when, people, whether, for me to say I'm good, I'm beautiful, I am smart, I'm good enough, right? Means I'm, self praise is a disgrace. What do you think of that?
I know. I think sometimes self-praise it's also self-acceptance because self-praise is like, hey, I put in a lot of work, I put in a lot of time, and it's gotten me to achieve this. It's gotten me to who I am today, right?
Nice.
We're so easy to praise others. Why not praise yourself, right?
Mm,
Humility. A lot of the time we're brought up with the cultural understanding is you should be modest,
mm,
right? You cannot show off your achievement. You cannot be bragging about this. But there's a fine line between bragging and being humble about your achievement.
being real about who you are.
Yes, exactly. You can take pride in your achievement, right?
Mm,
And bragging it is taking it to another level.
sure.
All right,
Nice.
yeah. So that is a fine line there. There is a fine line there between humility and and being boastful or bragging about things. The
Right.
bragging, the boastful thing is at the mind. When you tell the whole world how good I am and all that, but internally it's like, okay, you are doing that because you still feel lacking in some way. That's why you need the whole world to know that you achieved this.
Nice, nice. So, can I conclude that whether we're talking about whatever that's termed as good, bad, positive, negative, we need to stick to the truth of what it really is, because the body needs to deal with the truth.
Yes, yes. I think I see that more as when you come into wholesomeness, when you're coming together as one. It is being able to be honest with yourself and accept
So, it's honesty and self acceptance of what
acceptance. Yes,
accept.
because a penny is got two faces. It's not just one face. Right? A
Nice.
coin is got two sides. It's never just one side.
Okay.
Right? So
And can you
accept.
accept both sides?
Yes, don't deny one side for the other because they are all the same side of a coin. They make up
Nice,
the coin. Without the
nice,
other side, you don't call it a coin. It is something else. Right?
nice,
So
nice,
why do you want to change your personality to be something else when there is two sides
mm,
to a coin? Right? That's
nice.
the analogy. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're almost running out of time. We have run out of time. I usually do a rapid fire, but I'm going to skip it because I want to just ask you a couple of quick questions for people to connect with you.
Sure.
Just want to say thank you. Just want to acknowledge some people. Dr. Prabhagaran. Prabhagaran says thanks a lot. Great sharing idea. Moihan says great advice, Sylvia. It's all about acceptance of who we are, we shouldn't be constantly misled to only pursue happiness and joy in our lives, but rejecting all the negatives in our lives. He's paraphrasing you really well. And he says, yes, we need to spend more time for ourselves, to observe our mind, non-judgment, nothing to do, nowhere to go, and just being there with our minds. And I'm just going to add to what Moihan said. Well, just being there with our consciousness at all levels to be whole is what I would say. Only Moihan, because we the general belief of the mind being here, the general operational belief, right? And I think the way we're differentiating with what Sylvia has said is just being conscious about your whole self, is what has been said. So Sylvia, and someone is asking about your services, and I'll send them your information. Geraldine, I'll get back to you. No worries. But what I want to check in with you is this, right? Tell us. So in especially during this pandemic, right? Right, during this pandemic. So what sort of what kind of um, uh, what do people come to you with? What kind of challenges, pains that people are coming to you with?
Okay. I think the pandemic, particularly the lockdown, has been hard for a lot of people because it is loss of freedom. It triggers a lot of fear and anxiety. So a lot of health issue, mental health issue. When I say mental health issue, immediately people jump to the conclusion crazy and all that. No, it is not, right? It is just that a lot of issue up here with the thoughts, with the thinking, and so therefore it would have an impact on the whole body,
Mm.
right? Yes. And also the other thing, also because of the lockdown, not being able to go for the regular check or health check and all that, there's also a lot of physical issues as well in the physical body. Yeah, manifestation of pain in the physical body. So yes, I'm seeing more and more of those. Yeah.
Okay. So can you also give us a couple of examples? And I'm saying this because I know I had some real physical pain that medically couldn't be fixed, but uh, just resolving unmet old issues actually has resolved it for me with you. And I've only had 2 sessions with Sylvia. With 2 sessions, I've had two resolutions, I must say, even though I know I'm continuously a work in progress, right? So that's big for me. That's very big for me. So if people want to come to you, so for example, right, I have major illnesses. We are not saying don't go to a medical doctor, but what we're saying is that if you want to know where is the source of this wound that has been manifested into an illness, then,
Um,
and if you want to resolve it, and Sylvia could be a facilitator to help you figure that out.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So Bodytalk is also, a marriage of modern science with consciousness, right? And also being able to look at the whole picture. I think that's why way I'm able to do what I'm good at is also helping the clients to look at the big picture and connect the dots.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
being
Okay,
objective about the
so
whole thing,
have
right?
all the floating parts come together, connect the
Yeah.
dots so that you can see where you've been, where you are, and where you would like to go.
Yes, well, yeah,
It's a whole
yes,
person.
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Nice,
So
nice.
sometimes the healing may have to be. Some clients are very how do I put it? They are not at all comfortable with alternative therapies. They are more into the mainstream therapy. But also, I would just say be open minded about all this, right? Sometimes you can go complementary, right? You can go for the traditional mainstream one, and at the same time, you have this alternative therapy, and it works. It does work, right? Or some clients are more comfortable just with going holistic alternative altogether, right? So you'll have different people with different mindset,
Yeah,
right?
but you need to be open to explore. That's what we're saying.
Yes, but a lot of the time when the client comes to make appointment, it already means that they are open to receiving, they're
Yeah,
open to explore, they're ready to let go,
nice.
right? Yes.
Nice, thank you. And can you, just before we end, give us one or two physical manifestation of illness, say for example, diabetes, high blood pressure, sugar levels, even cancer, that has
Mm.
been resolved over a period of time when they resolve issues. I'm sure you've had clients who've come to you. I'm very, very sure. And
Yeah.
and if you could give us a couple of your own experience of examples.
Yes, there are, my goodness, a lot of examples there. Let's say for example, cancer. I have got clients who have come um, purely just going alternative altogether, right? With quite a number of sessions with body talk, and this is breast cancer, right? Quite a number of sessions with body talk, and then also by tuning into the innate wisdom in combination with diet change and other alternative therapy.
Right.
So the patient, the client now is in regression. The health check, the physical exam has shown that it is the growth is no longer there. Right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I also had clients, cancer, who has gone both therapy, who has gone through chemo, right, and intensive sessions of chemo, and she has already lost her hair, and her nails was, about to drop off, very gaunt looking and all that. And she heard about body talk, decided that she wants to come and give a session. After one session, I think, let's say she comes on a Wednesday, and the Thursday she had her chemo. She texts back and said, "My goodness, I had my chemo today, but I don't feel nauseous like I used to after every session, right?" So she had a few more sessions, and then the rosiness came back. She started to gain weight. She did not lose any of her nails or her toenail, right? Yeah. And I think maybe she lose only one. Yeah. And then her hair, in the middle of her chemo, her hair starts to grow back, right?
Nice.
So yeah, so that's example of going completely holistic or going alternative therapy,
Sure.
mainstream and alternative. So they do work. At the end of the day, it's just keep an open mind, right? And
Right.
also have clients who come in with depression, right? Not being able to separate it from loved ones, the anxiety, and just not able to get out of bed because it's gotten to that state, right? And again, doing virtual session after two or three, she's able to slowly venture outside to go grocery shopping without feeling so overwhelmed as though the world is ganging up on her or feeling
Right.
that, yeah, right. She's able
Nice.
to feel safe and venture out of the house, yeah.
Nice. And Sylvia, what you were saying is that you do this virtually as well, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
So you can connect with Sylvia on Silvia Sim Facebook. Otherwise, connect with me. I will give you Sylvia's number. Sylvia, is it okay if I posted your handphone number?
Yes,
Good.
absolutely.
So
Yes.
I will look out for the comments and I will post Sylvia's telephone number and Facebook so you can get all the details. I can vouch because I am one of the beneficiary of Sylvia's healing hands and love. So thank you very much, Sylvia, for saying yes and enlightening us about really holistic healing and how to be really be a whole person. There's so much of wisdom in what you shared. I'm not going to wish you all the best because I think the people who get to you, I wish them all the best because life will never be the same again, right?
You're
So
very
I
much
want
good.
yeah, I want to thank you for saying yes to the vocation of healing and doing this in this part of the world where it's kind of rare to find not practitioners, but great practitioners who bring in so many school of thoughts together. So thank you very much. I wish you all the best. And I don't think people say this to therapists, but I'm going to say it to you that I am looking forward to our next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Uh,
having me. It is an honor. Thank you for doing the work that you do. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sylvia. As we say bye to Sylvia, for those who've been listening, I know we've been there for a bit now. Thanks for listening in. I will post the information. I wish you all the best. Do look after yourself. Till then, Next week, we also have another very interesting speaker who's going to talk about healing and well-being. And yes, it is another dimension that we are probably not used to. So with that, signing off, this is Mala from Hearts and Minds Development Center. Stay safe, stay well, stay whole, stay me.